All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin. Hey, welcome back to the other side of the coin, everyone. I've got a very special guest here today. His name is Mediano Era. That's the name he goes by in social media, especially in football Twitter. And first of all, my man, Mediano, how you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's been a while.
It absolutely has been a while, man. I'm so glad that I've got you on. I know we're going to get a lot of different opinions, different perspectives, which is perfect because I know you've got some different perspectives about a lot of these things, and we don't always agree. But one thing that we always do, we always respectfully disagree, and we have a healthy discussion. So I'm so glad that everyone's going to get a good sort of perspective. Shout out to the people that have joined in, and shout out to the people that will join in throughout the session and will watch it down the track. We've already got Hajir here. Hajir, yes, Mediano, my bro, he's here. Yusuf, yeah, Yusuf is always a massive supporter of the channel, bro. This is too early. I'm not sure where you are, Yusuf. This is prime time UK at the moment, 7:30 p.m., 6:33 a.m. It's early for me, but Mediano, let's get straight into this, my man. There's a lot to talk about. First of all, I want to talk to you about the whole penalty incident, the handball incident, creating a little bit of a havoc, a pandemonium at the moment in the fan base from Man United side, from our side. Before we get into the whole thing about what Luke Shaw heard from Stuart Atwell, or supposedly what Stuart Atwell said, just from your perspective, was it a handball?
I was watching the game and I thought it was, and I didn't think it was relative to what I believe a handball is, but relative to what we've seen called, I'm quite surprised we didn't get it called against us. Now, if we're talking about intent, which I believe matters, then of course neither of them meant it, and they were jostling for the ball, and I don't even think Callum knew where the ball was. And so I think if it went against us, it was a tough call. And if it went for United, it's also a tough call. So as a Chelsea fan, I'm glad it didn't go against us, but I could very well see an alternate universe where it does. And we have to settle that.
Yeah, I have to agree as well. Like when I first saw the incident, I didn't know if there was a handball. It kind of looked like it came off the hand of Mason Greenwood, to be honest. But as things were slowed down and showed, you could see that it hit Callum Hudson-Odoi's hand. And I had this conversation in my review post-match. You talk about the intent, which is important, but I think the new rule kind of also says if your hand's in an unnatural position. So it doesn't always have to be intent, but the whole unnatural position. But when I think about the unnatural, like as you said as well, like they were tussling with each other. I mean, maybe it's not so unnatural to have your hand there when you're tussling with another player. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, I absolutely think you are right, because the thing is, there is no normative basis for a natural position when you're running or blocking a shot or whatnot. You know, we can have a sort of objective standard that your hand should be tucked behind your back and so on, but how are you going to contort your body in a certain way while you're running and looking at the ball and then assessing what you should do with said ball? Like, I just think whatever the in quote unquote natural position is, it's almost impossible to hold a professional player to that standard. As you know, as an amateur footballer, I would struggle to contort my body in certain ways, let alone as a professional who's trained day in and day out doing certain things. So if your hands are wailing while you're running, then that's just, if we look at Raheem Sterling's running style, his hands wail a bit, right? So that's his natural running style. Now, who am I as a referee to say that's an unnatural position, if that makes sense?
No, 100% makes sense, man. Like there has to be some sort of that human element that needs to be put on it. I think there's just too much ambiguity at the moment around the whole thing. As you said, at the end of the day, it wasn't a penalty given, thank God. Had it been given, I think we would understand it as well because the majority of the fan base do agree that it was a handball. Now moving out onto the next part of this particular topic, Luke Shaw has come out post-match, which is strange. There's some reports coming out that Solskjaer and both Luke Shaw, because Solskjaer sort of agreed on it as well, and they're not getting charged by the FA or anything like that about the things that they've said, especially what Luke Shaw said post-match. He said he heard Stuart Atwell say that this was too controversial to give and he's not going to give it, which created a lot more sort of chaos in both the fan base, saying that, well, how could a referee do that? I mean, if it's a pen, it's a pen. You don't just not give because it's too controversial. But they've since, I think Luke Shaw, was it, who was it? Harry Maguire came out and said that, no, they misheard that conversation. How do you look at this whole situation? Do you feel, because I had a few guys yesterday in my review, and they were sort of saying that maybe the referee was perhaps a bit scared to make a genuine decision here and just probably buckled. How do you see this whole situation?
So the way I see it's a little bit different than probably how Luke Shaw sees it. Firstly, I think United and their fans have been used to getting those calls. So when they don't get it, it's more of a problem than the norm, which is them getting it, right? So if you expect to get a call, and I actually have the figure up. So Lampard and Klopp last season made comments. So prior to those comments, United averaged a penalty every 200 minutes. And after those comments, United averaged a penalty every 700 minutes.
Wow.
So if this could just be coincidental, and I'm not inferring that it is causal, but I think, and I'm led to believe that the referees and other clubs are seeing United get penalties for Bruno stepping on, I believe it was Konsa's leg last season versus Aston Villa. And so other clubs and their managers and referees are seeing, well, United are getting a fair few calls. And if I recall correctly, them and Leicester have the most penalty calls in their favor over the last 2 seasons. I think deviating from that norm is where Luke Shaw is coming from. But I think the deviation from that norm should have happened already, because United did get an abnormally high amount of penalty calls. And so if Stuart Atwell did give that call, it would have been controversial because, like we said, what's a normal body position or natural body position and so on. And if he didn't give that call, then, the game would have progressed as it did, which ended in a stale 0-0 with neither team really set out to win it, right? And so when a referee's making a call like that and changing the entire dynamic of a game, because from the off, we could see that it was going to be a cagey, maybe 1-1, 0-0 affair. So if Stuart Atwell gave that call, then the entire dynamic of the game changes. And so I think as a referee, I'm not sure if what Luke Shaw's saying, but I think as a referee, he's definitely heard rumblings from other referees and from managers that it's a bit suspect that they keep getting these calls.
Yeah, now makes sense, man. And I remember there was another one. I know there's been many incidents of such. Something that just popped up in my head last season. I don't know if you recall, Man United versus Tottenham post-lockdown, how they got a penalty to, I believe, to level the match, or I think they might have, I think it was to level the match, where Bruno Fernandes really just took a big dive. And I remember whether it was Eric Dyer who supposedly stuck a leg out, but really didn't actually even touch Bruno Fernandes. And the way Bruno sort of simulated the whole situation fooled the referee and ended up getting the penalty. There's been cases like that. I also recall how Kovacic in the FA Cup, but that wasn't Man United. That was actually that was Arsenal. But yeah, there's been cases. But do you find it strange that if Stuart Atwell didn't say anything like that, he might have been thinking it, that Luke Shaw didn't get punished for what he said? I mean, surely something should have happened here, right? Like, both can't be right.
Well, yeah, I think so. I guess there's a running joke that there's a United tax in the FA. Whether that's true or not, I guess remains to be seen. There's a case for both, but I'd be surprised if the FA didn't come out and shoot that down. I'm unsurprised that Harry Maguire as the captain did, because I suppose during their FA meetings and so on, they have further discussions. But effectively, what Luke Shaw's claiming is that the referees aren't doing their job correctly, and they're
pretty
letting
much
the media influence their decisions, which is a pretty bold statement. And I think Ole referenced Chelsea's Fifth Stand app, which I found quite funny. I didn't know the Fifth Stand app had such political sway in the Football Association. But yeah, I'd be surprised if the FA didn't come out and shoot that down right away.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very, very. I find the whole situation a bit strange that no one. It's sort of like, let's just forget what happened or who said what and just move on and just put it. You're right. The whole Man United tax. There has to be, these guys. They have a bit of a stranglehold on the Premier League, and I think it can be seen over here. We've got a couple of comments here. Kishan, thanks for joining, my man. Luke Shaw, fine needed. Yeah, but I don't think he's getting the fine, Kishan. The whole matter has been dropped, apparently. Slabhead is a liar. And then he's also got that fridge should be banned.
Yes.
Let's move on to the. I think that's enough with the whole penalty situation. At the end of the day, look, it didn't happen, and whatever the cases that took place after, I mean, it is what it is. Let's talk about the whole Tammy Abraham situation, Mediano. Lots of talk that's been happening, and I know you're one of those person that actually backs Tammy Abraham, and that's absolutely fine. I mean, we should all be backing our players. There's no reason not to back them. I've always been a bit of I suppose, a critique of him in the sense that I've always said I can't picture him being a long-term Chelsea striker. I just feel like there's something missing, which we're obviously going to get to. Yesterday, he wasn't even part of the squad. There's a lot of talk about, he was injured. Matt Law came out saying he's been left out because of injury, but then there's been other sort of journalists been coming out and saying that there was an injury. He was just not part of the team. Tuchel has also said the same thing as well. How do you see the whole scenario panning out? I mean, do you sort of take it as he was injured, or do you sort of look at it that Thomas Tuchel probably doesn't fancy this player?
I think there's always two sides of the coin.
Absolutely.
So I think Matt Law saying it's an injury, given that we know he's sort of the board's mouthpiece, infers that there's something going on behind the scenes. And whether that is as a result of the contract standoff, because we know Callum and I think Fikayo and a couple other academy grads are being paid healthy wages, and Tammy's actually the lowest earner in that bracket. So whether it's about a contract standoff or whether it's about Tuchel not fancying him, I think Tuchel hasn't given him an opportunity to fancy him. I think Lampard gave Werner and Havertz ample opportunity to, wow the fan base, and Lampard's long gone. But the fact that they were in the squad, that they were playing, that the fans were seeing them on the pitch, and showcasing their ability and whatnot, it gave them a platform from which to show Lampard and the fans what they can do. And I think Tuchel removed that platform for Tammy. I mean, let's say, for sake of argument, you give a player a game to impress. You say, you know what, this is your game, impress me. And over that game, you're not seeing things you particularly like or whatnot. And so you hook him at 45 minutes. Yeah. You know what, maybe it's not your game, you're not suited to the opposition. Fair play. And then you get another game and you're getting hooked at 45. So if you're that player and you're saying, well, he said he'd give me an opportunity. This is the first time I've played in a couple weeks. is he expecting me to nail 3 goals like I'm Drogba in a semi-final, or what are the expectations here? And I think as a 23-year-old striker, the expectations are just unfair. And if we're applying the same expectations we have on Tammy, on the rest of the front line, who are all underwhelming. Like if we're being brutally honest, we've seen underwhelming numbers across the board. You know, Cobham, no Cobham, new signing, old signing, everyone's been underwhelming. And so if we're using those standards to objectively say, well, this guy deserves a chance and this guy doesn't, then I see no reason why Tammy doesn't deserve a chance, but Giroud does. You know, like if even when Giroud scored versus Newcastle, Tammy played versus Southampton, and then when Giroud scored versus Atleti, Giroud played versus United, but in retrospect, it probably wasn't the best move as his immobility kind of stifled us. But there's just I think, and this comes back to the Lampard situation again, as we can't escape it really. The squad is just too big. Tuchel has too many names and people to appease. He has to appease the board, and then he has to appease the individuals, and then he has to fit them into a system. So effectively, you're saying we're going to give you 5 wheels on a car. You only need 4, but you have to use 5. It's a tough situation all around, right? I don't think it's a mentality issue. To end off my rant, I don't believe so, because if you come out of Cobham, then you have the elite mentality. You know, you don't get out of that academy without being as a psychological profile elite. You know, because you're competing against the best footballers in your age.
There's too much competition in that academy. So exactly. I get your point. Yeah.
Exactly. They're competing for places from when they're 8, right? It's not like this is the first time Mason or Tammy or Fakayo or Reece or Callum have been competing. You know, this is what they know. So I think for someone to say it's a mentality issue, it's as far from the truth as can be. I think it's just Tuchel needs to please a lot of people, and then by pleasing Giroud or Werner or Marina or Roman, then we see Kai Havertz being left out as well. He hasn't even gotten poverty minutes. We see Pulisic being left out. There's a whole array of players being frozen out because he's having to juggle this massive squad. Yeah.
Now that I completely get your perspective on it, and I want to explore this more because obviously the live chat's going off in terms of some are backing Tammy Abraham, some are not. I want to now spin this around. I want to look at both sides of the whole Tammy situation. My younger brother, Mediano, he's actually an Arsenal fan, right? And every time I talk to him about Tammy Abraham, and I sort of have this, I don't know, maybe I don't pay too much respect to Tammy, and he really gets hurt. My younger brother, who's an Arsenal fan, he said they will take Tammy Abraham with both hands any day of the week to Arsenal. He absolutely loves what Tammy Abraham brings, and he thinks that he'd be perfect for an Arsenal setup. So it's crazy. There are other people in different fan base that absolutely rate Tammy and his skill set. My issue is, Mediano, is that I think aerially, he's for a guy who's tall and he's got a broad structure as well. So he's got a solid frame. Aerially, I feel like he needs to dominate a lot more. I feel like his movement when he's about to go for the headers is not always, pinpoint. That's why so many of the Reece James crosses we saw last season, he's always centimeters away. There was a really good program post-match. I remember it was Alan Shearer and Ian Wright who did it, and they were sort of showcasing Tammy's movement, and they were saying that Tammy's always few seconds slower to get into a particular position because he just reads the game a little bit slower than what an elite striker should. I completely understand all the goals he's scored for us. I know a lot of people will say that he's been banging in goals. He's been developing. He has been getting better, no doubt about that. This season, we saw that his link-up was getting better with the likes of Kai Havertz. I think when Timo Werner has played well, it's probably been with Tammy Abraham. But for me, I don't know, Mediano, man. Like, I feel like Yes, he's 23. He will be 24 this season. Is this guy the particular striker that will take us, to Premier League titles glory, to Champions League glory? I mean, you need that level of a striker. You look at our situation this season, Mediano, like where Tammy Abraham is the highest scorer for us in terms of forwards. I think 6 goals in the Premier League. It's just not going to cut it. We need someone who's going to do better. I mean, how do you see that? Do you honestly believe in yourself that Tammy Abraham has the skill set or will get the skill set to win us the big, titles down the track?
So, well, okay. So I'll answer this from a couple of angles. Firstly, with regards to the frame and the hold up and the aerial ability, I understand the criticism and it's absolutely fair. And I have no queries with people critiquing Tammy for that. What I do want to say is, we talk about your Drogba's. So we'll list off 3 strikers that like undisputably have worked out to varying degrees. We have Drogba, Costa, Giroud. So we have multiple Premier League titles, a European title in Drogba. We have multiple Premier Leagues in Costa, and then we have a Europa in Giroud. And now, if we actually look at the age ranges, Drogba came when he was 26, Costa came when he was 26, and Giroud came when he was 30?
30 probably, yeah.
Yeah,
30.
Around there. And so now we're asking a 23-year-old, so there's that three-year difference is fundamental, especially in physical development. Now we're asking a 23-year-old to live up to the billing of a prime Drogba, Diego Costa, Giroud, who are mature forwards, right? These guys are men at this point. And by all margins, he excelled last season. 15 non-penalty goals, which was only bettered by Mbappe for U23 forwards. And I think he had 4 assists. So that's almost 20 goal contributions in 27 odd games. So he was 5 off Costa's first tally at 3 years younger. So if we're saying development is even remotely linear, then there's no reason for me to believe with better service and a better system that Tammy can't score 20 goals. Like if he scored 15 with Willian, Mason, and Pedro behind him, no offense to any of those, but they're not elite creators. And so if he scored 15 there, and we know how hard it is to score goals because we've seen Werner struggle and we've seen Pulisic struggle and Havertz struggle this season, even Giroud to some extent, then why are we giving up so easily on a young forward? And then we're not even getting into the financial aspect, whereas Tammy on 250K a week is still half of what we're paying for Werner on a yearly basis. So by all margins, if you look at it from any point of view, the odds are with Tammy to come through. And even if he doesn't, for whatever reason, you still have a 20, let's say at 25, he's only scoring 14 goals. You still have a 25-year-old scoring 14 Premier League goals a season. Now, I think that's only been matched by 3 or 4 strikers this season. And so by any avenue you look at it, why would we give up on Tammy? Now, if for sake of argument, we're saying Holland, a name like Holland has come up, or Lukaku. Now, these guys are objectively better than Tammy Abraham. You don't sign Erling Haaland every day. So if we're getting Haaland and Tammy doesn't want to be number 2, then I understand and I empathize with it.
Yeah.
But if we're giving up on Tammy because we don't believe he's good enough, there's just no evidence for that. He's shown last season in a pretty dysfunctional setup that he can do the business. And he's shown this season by getting half the minutes as the other forwards that he can still do the business. So there's actually a funny stat. When Tammy Abraham has played 70 minutes or more, he's ended the game with a goal. Yeah.
I've seen that stat.
Yes. Yeah. So I want to know why people write him off. And I can't get behind it because there's just nothing for me that tells me this guy won't come good. And we saw it with Lukaku, and we saw it with De Bruyne, and we saw it with Salah. We've seen this before, you know, where Chelsea fans and the board are impatient and we write youngsters off, youngsters that are clearly talented. So we're talking about ending this culture and giving youth a chance and so on in this long-term project, but we're making the same mistakes. And Tammy is a mistake waiting to happen. Even Sturridge, actually, who doesn't get a mention a lot, but Daniel Sturridge we sold. He scored, I think, 12 goals one season for us in 2013.
Yeah.
We sold him. He begged 25 for Liverpool and almost won the title for them with Suarez.
That was a crazy season for Liverpool.
Exactly. So how many times are we going to write off these young number 9s that have shown us they're going to do the business if we gave them not even 5 years, if we give them 2 years, you know? How many times are we going to write them off? And how many times can we replace them? Because as we see with Tomori, he just won his place over the AC Milan's captain.
He's balling out over there. He's now replaced Romagnoli, apparently.
Yeah, that's their captain. So now if I'm Tammy and I'm saying, wow, look at Tomori, who's displacing Milan's captain, and Milan are no slouches. We're not talking about your Brightons, your Burnleys. This is AC Milan. This is a European super club. So if Tomori can displace their captain, and Tammy's sitting there at home saying, well, if I get a call from Inter Milan or if I get a call from wherever across the globe, you know, a PSG, for example, he's better than Mauro Icardi. He scored more than him, and he's younger, and he can do more. So if he gets a call saying, you know what, we have faith in you, then what does that say about Cobham? Then what are Cobham youngsters going to do now? And now the academy that we pride ourselves on is slowly waning away because we're not giving them minutes.
No, 100%. Look, this is why I got you here, Mediano, because us fans, we may see it one way. We've got our blinkers on. That's why it's always good to see the other perspective. And you've now sort of put such a nice design into it that it makes sense. Why wouldn't you, back someone like Tammy? As you said, I think the key thing that you said, Mediano, is that there's absolutely no evidence why you don't want to back Tammy Abraham. Yes, with all the different flaws that we've talked about, but you've also countered that by saying, well, he's 23. You know, Diego Costa and Drogba, they sort of peaked, when they were 26, or 27, sort of that kind of level. So why not wait when we've seen the result? However, to counter that and to take this topic to a different level, this commentary from Manhandle, Jonathan, shout out to Jonathan, my man, for joining. Get the point on Tammy, but Chelsea aren't a club that can wait around. If you don't perform, you'll be replaced, and that applies to everyone. I think this is a huge point, Mediano, where we've generally haven't been a club that's been patient at all. So do you feel like that's playing it? Because I don't understand why the club don't see the fruits of Tammy Abraham, because let's now bring the whole picture of Haaland, right? There's a massive, massive push that's happening towards Haaland. You know that as well. Roman Abramovich looks set to get Erling Haaland. But the question is, Mediano, why aren't they seeing the light with Tammy at all? Like, why are they sort of just totally disregarding? Is it because that they simply don't have the patience to wait around?
So I think, well, firstly, with regards to Manhandle TFC's comment, we haven't competed legitimately for 5 years. So clearly our model needs some adjusting. It's not always the manager, and it's not always the players. Sometimes the system itself is flawed, and the system we use to assess players is flawed, right? So that's the first point. And the second point is, if a talent like Haaland is there for the taking, you take him, right? I don't think any Chelsea fan would say no to Erling Haaland. I certainly wouldn't, because not only does he have the goal-scoring nous, but he has the superstar aura, that inevitability about him. There's like that mean streak of, he'll fight for your team and he'll fight for this and so on and so forth. And I get that. I certainly don't have a problem if Chelsea signed Haaland, and I don't know why anyone would.
It'd be mad to actually oppose that.
Exactly. But I think with Tammy is, the club don't. I honestly believe sometimes the club don't see that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So, like, let's say, and I love all of Chelsea's players. Okay, some I don't rate, some I do rate, but I want the best for them because that means the best for Chelsea, just as a caveat, right? But let's draw two comparisons. So we have Mason Mount and Kai Havertz, and then we have Tammy and Werner. And so we signed both of them, and they don't play the same position, but they will fulfill the same goals, so to speak. Havertz was supposed to connect play and be the creative spark as the 10 or second striker, and that's what Mason did last season, and Werner was supposed to bang in all the goals, and that's what Tammy did last season, right? Yeah. And so now fast forward 6 months, and you get a bunch of fans, and I bet the board and Lampard scratching their head like, well, why did we kind of do this? You know, we signed players to displace or to provide competition and to better the squad quality and so on. But the academy boys are they've just performed better, and they keep performing better. And so that's not to say let's build our squad around the academy. Of course not. You need foreign investment. And there's actually a great saying that a stat that there's positive correlation with money spent and success on the pitch. As Chelsea fans, we know that the correlation holds true. But if we have an elite academy and if we have these profiles of players, why not sign massive superstars to complement them? You know, why not sign a Varane to complement a Christensen or to complement a Thiago Silva? Why not sign a Marquinhos to complement N'Golo Kante? You know, you don't want to splash big on Declan Rice, but splash big on Marquinhos. He just made the CL final. He is certified world class, right? Why not sign complementary pieces, right? And then see, do we need to improve in this area, or do we need to sell here, right? So instead of signing almost like for like profiles and a bit of quirky profiles, because both Havertz and Werner are 9.5s, why not sign complementary pieces, right? Why sign players that you want to displace them? Because now you're left with a problem on FFP saying that Mason, Tammy, Fakayo, Reece, Callum, that's 6 potential starters that will cost you under 30 million collectively on the books. So now you have the money to sign your Haalands and to sign your Mbappes, right? It's only when we sign players that provide competition for the XI but aren't good enough to be automatic starters that we see, you know, a bit of friction. Because then we're like, well, do we give the new boys a chance? Do we give the academy a chance? Do we try to mesh them all? Then you have an oversized squad. So I do think we can plan better, and I do think we can make acquisitions more shrewdly.
Now, 100. This honestly, you've nailed it. I've questioned our transfer business last season. I know it looked really amazing on paper, all the different players that we've got in the likes of Ziyech, Werner, Havertz, Chilwell, and so on and so forth. But it's so well said, Mediano, what you just said in terms of, have we actually thought about who do we want to keep and how can we complement these players? As you said, if you want to keep N'Golo Kante and you want to build a team around him, well, N'Golo Kante is never going to work with Jorginho. We're going to talk about all of this because I know you've got very, very different opinions about some of these players. But N'Golo Kante was never going to work with the Jorginho or even a Kovacic. So why not get, as you said, a Marquinhos if you're not so keen about Declan Rice? I know you're big on Declan Rice. If you can't go out there and bite the bullet, because I think our board has come out publicly in the Athletic article when Frank Lampard got sacked that they're not keen to go back on Declan Rice when they've actually let go of him when he was 14. If you're not going to do that, then find another profile that sort of complements this, as opposed to scrapping the whole situation and going in with it. You look at, as you said, the whole Kai Havertz situation with Mason Mount. I want to ask you this before I move into the whole Thomas Tuchel assessment and wrapping up this Tammy Abraham situation. First of all, another shout out from Manhandle. Mediano is always interesting to listen to and read tweets of. Good to see different opinions, and that's why I love this channel. Thank you so much, Mediano. Manhandle, for that comment.
Cheers, mate.
Mediano, the whole. Do you feel like we actually thought about our transfer business? Because the whole Kai Havertz, I know he's a fantastic player, but we've got quite a lot of players that sort of can do that. And I feel like Ziyech kind of was able to do that as well. And then you got strikers in the likes of Tammy and, Werner and Giroud. Do you feel like people actually thought about some of these transfers, specifically Havertz, who's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong, but did we actually think about some of these transfers?
With the Holland links, no, absolutely not. And I think this is why I worry, because we have a lot of money. That part isn't much up for debate. And we're a very healthy spending club. So if you buy Kai Havertz, then you don't buy Timo Werner. And if you buy Timo Werner, then you don't buy Kai Havertz. And now why I say that is because we've heard Werner from the horse's mouth say, I'm a 9.5. So the second striker, in essence. And now we've heard Tuchel and Ralf Rangnick earlier in January, I believe, also say Kai Havertz is the future of German football. He's also a 9.5. He's not a 9 and he's not a 10. So you don't really get the best out of, or from what I see and what I think, is you don't get the best out of both Timo Werner and Kai Havertz simultaneously. Now, if we bought one or the other, then I understand it completely, because I think Mount's best position is box to box. I hold him in a sort of Gundogan light, where Gundogan's playing box to box for Pep right now, and he played box to box under Tuchel as well. So Mount is and has said, I'm a number 8. I'm a midfielder, not a forward or an attacker. Havertz is the quintessential opposite of that. Havertz is an attacker and he's not a midfielder. If we look at Mount's progressive passing stats and his ball carries and his goal scoring from midfield, he's one of the best midfielders in the league. Now, when we're shoehorning Mount into a front three, then he doesn't look, he's still very impressive. Don't get me wrong, I'm a very big Mason Mount fan, but he doesn't look as impressive. So what I think is, if we sign Haaland, where does Werner and Havertz go? Because we only have so many spaces in the front line, number 1, and the team will be built around Haaland because he's Haaland, number 2. So now we're facing this problem of sorts where, well, do we play Havertz or do we play Werner or do we play Pulisic or do we play Ziyech? Like,
true.
So effectively and very roughly, we have 2 similar profiles. We have 2 9.5, so second strikers in Werner and Havertz, and then we have an inside forward in Werner and an inside forward in Pulisic, and then we have a creative left footer in Ziyech and a creative left footer in Havertz. So we effectively bought the same profiles twice. So we have 2 sections of overlaps. Now, this is not a bad thing per se. It's just the manager will receive a lot of stick a lot of the time because you can only play so many of these guys and you can only get the best out of so many of them, right? And so exactly that comment that comment sums it up perfectly.
You can call him Amar. I struggle with his name as well. Amar, how you doing, man?
So this sort of spending free from Chelsea reminds me exactly of Florentino Perez's Galacticos, where he bought your Zidane's, your Roberto Carlos's, your Ronaldo's, your Bale's, and so on and so forth, right? But how do you fit them all together? And at one point, we saw with Madrid, they had to be sold because they had Benzema and Higuain vying for the strikers. Then they had Ozil and Di Maria vying for the right midfielder. And they had Ronaldo and they had... And the list kept going on. And you couldn't keep all of them happy. So that's effectively what Chelsea are doing. And then compound that with Cobham and the academy, who's pumping out talents left, right, and center. You know, your Tino Andrins, your Tino Livermentos, your Lewis Bates, right? And so
Billy
Gilmore, where do we fit all of them, right? And so again, it just feels like the structure itself, the system itself, is a bit flawed, because we're just buying for the sake of it, and we're not really complementing what we have. You know, we still have your Alonsos and your Emersons on the books, and we've now loaned out Fikayo Tomori, and very, in fairness to Rudiger, he's been absolutely outstanding, but he's a 28-year-old with 2 knee problems, and we've now probably sold a 23-year-old Cobham talent, again FFP, with far better, for Tony Rudiger to stay and be happy. So where's the planning here? If there's planning at all, you know, where's the long-term, even medium-term vision? It doesn't seem there is one. And eventually, some of these players will have to leave. And unfortunately, and this is why I voice my opinion so vehemently, unfortunately, it's always the academy grads, like your Salahs, like your KDBs, like your Lukakus, that leave, and then KDB has won 2 titles. Lukaku is on his way to a Serie A for Inter. Salah has won a Premier League and a Champions League. So them 3 collectively have won as much as Chelsea within the last decade.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm going to bring in Hajir. Everyone, welcome Hajir. He's been dying to get on. He's been absolutely blasting the live chat with all the Tammy talks, and obviously we're going to talk about Jorginho and the rest. It's going to be quite interesting. Hajir, my boy, how you doing?
I'm good. No camera today. I've had a stressful day. I'm not showing my face like this on YouTube. No way. But yeah, I've been listening to the stream for the last 30 minutes, and I've heard my boy Mediano spitting, talking facts like usual. So yeah, I'm excited to be on.
Brilliant, bro. Brilliant. Look, I want to get your thoughts just quickly on Tammy, because we want to wrap this up and talk about the whole Thomas Tuchel assessment and talk about Jorginho and Kovacic, all the players that you guys love talking about. I want to get your thoughts on it. Hajir, I know Tammy Abraham follows you, and I know sometimes you can't just vent out the frustration because not on Tammy or just against people that are getting on Tammy. But here's your opportunity, my man. Talk to me. I mean, why do you believe this particular player so much, and why do you think that he's perhaps someone who could help us win titles down the track, along with what Mediano said, complement him with players that will actually help him out?
Yeah, this is the thing, yeah. I just haven't seen Tammy Abraham for Chelsea. I've seen him for Swansea and for Aston Villa, and I've seen part of his games that I haven't seen at Chelsea yet. Hence why I have so high expectations for him. And to be fair, Mediano, he talked about it with perfection. He said everything right. But the thing is, yeah, a striker, especially a young striker, you won't ever find form by getting a minute here, there. You need to have consistent game time in a row. Even for Giroud, you need to have 5-6 games in a row. For Tammy, 5-6 games in a row to get that consistency. Otherwise, you won't get it. Look at Tammy this season when he played there under Lampard. Yeah, he was really good. Then he had Tottenham, had a poor game, dropped. Same with last season. He had a couple of games at the beginning, really good, injury, and dropped, and nothing. When he actually get a couple of games, and this has always been the case with him, even at his other clubs, when he actually get a couple of games in a row, he performs. That's the thing. And as I said, I've seen him play at different clubs, and I've seen his ability, and he's yet to show some of his things he can do on the pitch for Chelsea. Hence why I believe in him. But if we get Erling Haaland, then I won't be. I obviously will be sad if Tammy leaves. But I would like it's not a bad replacement, if you know what I mean. Like, it's literally the golden boy of the new era. So I won't be disappointed if he leaves.
Nah, man. Look, completely understand what you're saying. Just quickly from both of you guys, I want to get just a last sort of information on Tammy. I'll ask Hajir this first of all. Hajir, look, even if we do get Haaland, which looks quite probable now that we probably will, I mean, why doesn't Tammy just sign the contract anyway? Why doesn't he just say, you know what? I think I can displace Timo Werner and Giroud is probably not going to stick around. Max, he may stick around for one more season, but he should be confident that, in the long term, with his skill set, he should believe that I can make a place here. Why doesn't he just sign that contract and give it a go and compete in Chelsea, like when we had Drogba and Alauka, and at times we even had Shevchenko a long time ago. So, I mean, what's stopping him? Do you think it's the financial situation as well, or do you feel that he sort of thinks that the club doesn't really trust him?
Nah, it's not. It isn't. It doesn't have anything to do with money. Nothing. I'm telling you, it's nothing to do with money. It's simple, to be honest. It's really simple. And I know that Mediano will agree with me. And this term, fighting for your place, I get it, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Look at Chelsea this season. Tammy scored the most goal for us. He's been on best striker if you look at just this season, and still has a lot less minutes than Werner, for example, who's, in my opinion, hasn't been great at all. I think he's been poor. But Sam still doesn't get enough chances like he should have got because of how he's performed, and he's been a best striker. So that's that, And the board and Marina upstairs, she chooses who plays. That's hence why Kepa is playing sometimes. That is why he played out in the Premier League game a couple of weeks ago. That is because of her. She wants the big money signings to play first of all. And if what's his name, Haaland comes in, this people need to understand. This is the golden boy of the new generation, together with Mbappe. This is the new Ronaldo and Messi debate. Haaland and Mbappe. He will always be the first source, and rightfully so if he performs, to be fair. But then you have Werner behind him, you have Havertz behind him, and then you probably have Tammy, because the board will have their part in that as well. And Tammy, and did you look? He's 23-year-old. I think he want to win trophies with England as well. People need to understand that as well. This England team that is coming up, they have an incredible team. I think he wants to be a part of that. And being the third, fourth, or perhaps second striker at Chelsea, they won't give it that opportunity. That's the thing.
No, fair point. Thompson Jones, Tammy can be good, but his reaction to Haaland news, Tammy should have competed for the number one role. I'm unconvinced in Tammy he could go on loan. Mediano, your thoughts on Tammy not signing as yet?
So yeah, I 100% agree with Hajir. There has never been a meritocracy at Chelsea. This is an autocracy. If you cost a lot of money, you play. It's really quite simple, So the very fact that we're seeing Mount play over Havertz is an aberration from the norm. This is not the norm, and it's never been the norm. And I think Mount is playing because the English media will kick up a fuss if Mason Mount's dropped. And they made that.
Ooh, do you really think so? I think
they made that. They made
getting
that
game time because he's good, Mediano.
Oh no, he gets game time because he's the heart and soul of his team, first and foremost. But he's getting game time over those big money signings because he's A, good enough to displace them, and B, he has the media's backing. Just like the new toys, the new signings have Marina's backing. Some of these Cobham boys have the media's backing because they want to see some of their own, in quotations, do well. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's an England international midfielder coming from Chelsea. You get the Frank Lampard gist. I'm sorry to say, I'm not putting pressure on Mason Mount, but you get the gist of and Scholes was comparing him to Lampard just yesterday, right? So everyone knows that Mason Mount is one of the new faces of Chelsea. But Tammy doesn't have that opportunity. He doesn't have that platform because striker is a far more ruthless position, fundamentally. And that autocracy, Werner's been played incessantly, even I bet against his own will. He's played like almost 15 games on the trot. No, this is the first game he got rested. And so now we see Werner and Mount are probably the 1A, 1B options for that front three, front two, whatever it is. Then we have Giroud and Havertz as the 1C, 1D. And then we have, let's say Tammy and Pulisic. So personally, I'm even surprised Pulisic's been benched this concretely. But Tammy won't get that opportunity because he's not allowed to. And if he does get that opportunity and he does score, let's for a hypothetical, let's say Tammy does score like he did in the FA Cup round. He did score, and then he was immediately dropped for Giroud. So it effectively means my parents are telling me, get an A+ and we'll give you $20. I get the A+ and they give me $5. I'm not going to
well said, my man. Well said.
believe them when they say we'll give you $20 anymore, because you didn't give me $20. You gave me $5. So Tammy says, you want me to score? I scored, but you're still dropping me. So what do you want me to do? You want me to drop in league play? I drop in league play, but Tuchel doesn't like that. He wants his strikers in the box and whatnot. So I just think there's a major schism here between what ought to happen, which is a meritocracy and players playing, and what is happening. And that fundamentally comes down to Marina, because Marina is in a tough situation herself. She has the job of keeping squad valuations high, but also keeping players happy. Marina's doing two jobs. She's a negotiator, and she's in charge of acquisitions. So she doesn't want to see Kepa's valuation drop, but she also can't see Chelsea in 6th because she's going to have to answer to Roman. So where does Marina go? And this is why the whole fan base for years now, since Emanolo departed, has been clamoring on for a director of football, because there needs to be someone who knows the game, who can say, Marina, this guy isn't playing for this reason, and this guy needs to be sold for this reason. Alonso is a subpar footballer, and I'm sorry. He scored a nice goal for his Burnley, but he's not good enough to win another title. He did it under Conte, but we also had a world-class front three, make no mistake. Eden Hazard, Diego Costa, Pedro combined for 60 goals.
So true.
Right? So Alonso's not good enough, and he's overextended his stay, right? And so we see all these players overextend their stay, and then they're getting, a bit of air in their chest, say, oh, I want a new contract and so on. And they have no business. If Chelsea are really serious about winning trophies, they have no business being here. But Marina's trying to play them to keep their valuations high and also to sell them. So now Chelsea are caught in this limbo where we have to play them so they have okay valuations, but they're not really good enough to play. So Tuchel's now creating an absurd system to get the best out of all these different mismatched of pieces, and it's a mess from the top down.
You know what, Mediano, I can't really argue with any point that you've said, because I agree with that. It's not a coincidence all of these players have made a comeback as soon as the manager has gone. There's been reports saying that some of these players, when they were sort of shut out under Frank Lampard, didn't really was looked at kindly by the board, because look, as you said, Mediano, you're not really putting the blame on anyone. You're just making everyone understand what the situation is and how Marina is in such a tough situation, in the sense that you've got a keeper like Kepa who's been pretty horrendous, but at the same time you need to play him so that we can get some sort of market value in the likes of Rudiger as well and Alonso. At the same time, you can't also be 6th or 7th or 8th in the table. So as you said, maybe we need someone a little bit more astute as to. It all comes down to making the right decision from the get-go, right, Mediano? Like, if you make the right choices and think about what you really want and set out a long-term plan, then you can negate some of these bad situations. Like this whole Haaland thing again. As much as I want Haaland, but as you said, well, what about Werner and Havertz then? Because essentially you're probably going to kill them off. And then there's Pulisic as well. So, look, we can talk about this topic all day long, but we're going to keep it to that. Let's now talk about the whole Thomas Tuchel assessment. Hajir, I'll go to you. I want to talk about 3 things. I don't want to talk about the whole thing because obviously we're almost gone for an hour. Let's talk about the double sixes first of all. I want to talk about the double sixes, the wing backs in this Thomas Tuchel's system, and also I want to talk about the lack of opportunities that we're creating. Let's talk about the double sixes. I want to give you my sort of perspective first of all, Hajir, before I get your sort of information on it. I've been backing the whole Kovacic and Jorginho. The reason being because I see what Thomas Tuchel's trying to do, which is he wants to have possession. He doesn't want to play entirely counter-attacking football. He wants to have possession. He wants to control the midfield, and he wants to dictate the play, basically. Whether Kovacic and Jorginho are the best combination in the world, that's a different story. It is who we have right now, who I believe can lead what Thomas Tuchel's trying to do. But then there's a lot of debate about, well, what about Kante? I know Mediano Era is someone who's massively in favor of Kante. Me too, don't get me wrong. But I feel like in this whole situation, what Thomas Tuchel's trying to do, Kante seems to be a bit of a mismatch in the double six. What's your perception in the whole double six situation?
Look, yeah, you know my thoughts on this Regista Campista thing. You know my thought. It's a myth. It's a fugazi. It doesn't work. You need a strong physical DM. And look, yeah, with Jorginho, first of all, his job, in my eyes, is to defend, and his passing ability should be like Cesc Fabregas-esque. Not to that extent, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So let's look at that. I could skip passing with ease. That's me, yeah. I played football the other day, and this is the thing, yeah. I work out at the gym and stuff. I played football the other day. The day after, my body was done. Honestly, pretty much every muscle I had hurt, and I could skip past Jorginho. So that's that, yeah. It's easy. It's no protection. It's like using a condom that is broken. That's the thing. It's like using a broken condom with Jorginho in midfield. So that's the thing. And second of all, his long passing against Atletico. He overhit pretty much every single pass. And his passing is apparently this really, really good thing. It's apparently like it's great. It's not great. It really isn't great. So when he can't hit those long passes or defend, what does that actually bring? But to be fair, when he plays with Kovacic, they have this connection. So they look good. They have these passing combinations and such. Hence why people think they're this amazing DM duo, but they are not. That's the thing. They are not this amazing DM duo. And then with this Kante thing, to be fair, yeah, Kante, he helps out a lot defensively. He maybe isn't Pirlo when he passes the ball, but his defensive work rate, he keeps running. It's been really, really good. And one thing I've noticed when he's played with Kovacic, and I've been disappointed in Kovacic, to be fair, is that Kante is actually the one defending a lot and the one driving forward. The one driving forward, it should be Kovacic. I don't know if it's because he doesn't trust Kante or they don't have a connection, but with Jorginho, it's different.
I think with Kante, he likes to drive forward as well, and that's where the imbalance comes in, where both Kovacic and Kante go forward.
Yeah, to be fair, that's a good shout. But there is a solution, yeah, at the end of the season. Bring in that DM. And speaking about DMs, I'm sorry, I have to drop his name. Declan Rice, however you want to pronounce it, yeah. Get him in. Premier League proven, yeah. We don't need to wait a season for him to get used to the league and all that, yeah. Premier League proven. He doesn't go to a rival. That's another key point. He doesn't go to a rival. Imagine if he went to Man United, yeah. Pogba, Bruno, Declan Rice. That would dominate football. He doesn't go to Man United. His passing is great. He can hit those long passes to Timo Werner into that space. His defending is great. His physical is great. His shooting he has a good shot on him. He's fast. He directs the play. He has a top mentality. He's a natural leader, and only 22 as well. That is our future. That is all I'm gonna say.
Look, I cannot one bit disagree with this. Look, Declan Rice is a very, very good player. I think recently, Mediano Era was the first one that started the whole Declan Rice propaganda. We all know that since last season, and since then, he's been touted, and praised. I suppose that and now so many people have been backing Declan Rice. The only thing with Declan Rice is that in recent times, I see a lot of our fan base. When some of our players are doing well, we tend not to sort of praise them. But as soon as West Ham's playing, they're praising Declan Rice. That's the only thing. But I think this is more of a personal issue than a Declan Rice issue. Declan Rice, I think we can all admit, he would be a fantastic DM for sure.
Do you know why? Mace? Do you know why that is? And this isn't anything at Sarri, but Sarri kind of split his fan base. After him, it isn't about the team anymore. It's about individual players. Hence why there's so many agendas and different players. If you stand Kovacic and Jorginho, you're a Sarri-sexual. You can't stand Kante and the other way around. Sarri created that at the club, and I'm not even joking. That is why that the problem exists.
No, for sure. Pri, I want to bring out this particular comment and talk to Mediano about it. Just quickly, please just mention Miz. I know you don't rate Rice. I've heard that in your previous video. No, it's not that I don't rate him. I think it's more the annoyance of seeing so much love for him when he's not even our player. That's probably what gets to me, and it's what Hajir sort of said that maybe perhaps it's the split that has created in our fan base from previously with other managers. But no, I can never ever say that Rice is not a good player. He's definitely a good player. But I do get annoyed with a lot of Rice propaganda when some of our players are doing well and they don't get the same treatment. But that's a different story. Mediano, this particular comment from Pri, Kante is better when we play off the ball. If we want to play possession-based, we need Jovicic. Before I hand it off to you, I must say, though, for me, what Tuchel is doing, which is similar to what Sarri kind of does with Jorginho, someone who sort of stays back and just, I feel like he's the glue in the middle that, the centre-backs can, reference to, the wing-backs can reference to, the midfield can reference to, and he basically just moves the ball around. Whenever there seems to be no option, Jorginho pops up, you pass it to Jorginho just moves it on to carry the play on. He's not, as Hajir said, he's not a Cesc Fabregas type of a passer. I mean, he has he does have the capability. We've seen it in his first season to create those passes, but he doesn't do it often enough. Whether he's been instructed or not, I don't know. But I've seen Kante when he's deployed in that same role and we want to play that same style, he's not entirely comfortable to continuously touch the ball that much. I'm not going to say he's absolutely disgusting on the ball. No, he's not. But it's just not his role to do that, to get the ball and pass it on, to create that tempo. Do you kind of agree with this particular comment? And I want to know your whole philosophy of the 6-6 that Tuchel is doing right now at the moment.
So first off, we need to address two things. We can't be a possession-based side. And I say this because we bought two counter-attacking players and we effectively built our team around them, and that's Werner and Havertz. Neither are possession-dominant players. We're not signing Bernardo Silva or Sergio Aguero, who thrive in possession-based sides. That's not who we bought. So true. So this notion that we play possession with Jovicic, no, it's not Tuchel's aim to dominate possession. Tuchel, much like Sarri before him, used possession as the best form of defense, and Pep does it as well, right? But to that extent, our best players aren't possession-based players, like whether we want to admit it or not or whatnot. We don't have.
I agree. I think I agree.
Yeah.
But Werner recently, I think Tuchel has come out and said that Timo Werner doesn't suit the style because we hold the ball and he doesn't like the ball.
Exactly. He said when you play possession, teams will sit off, and then there's no space in behind, and then Werner can't thrive, right? And so what we have to understand is that if we want to get the best out of Werner, we don't get the best out of Jovicic. And what I've been very adamant about through my tweets is that getting the best out of Jovicic will not win you a Premier League title, and that part has been very much clear. We see a historical trend. Not that I'm saying you can't rewrite history, but the historical trend over the last 15 years is a between 5'10" and 6'4" destroyer stylistically has won the Premier League. At Chelsea particularly, we've never won the Premier League without a destroyer. And for all that history, not much has changed, okay? And now we get into the Kante debate. Kante wins you a Premier League, as he won us one and Leicester one. Now, you can say, as there's a misconception on Twitter, not you in particular, either of you, but one can say that Kante's finished or his legs are washed or whatnot. But Kante's played 75% of Premier League games this season, and he's made the most tackles and interceptions this season out of any player in the Premier League. So statistically, Kante isn't finished, and statistically, Kante's still the best ball winner in the league. So do we build around Jovicic, which does give you a lot of aesthetics? Now, don't get me wrong. If I wanted to look at something pretty, you know, swift ball movement, swivels, shoulder drops, they give you that, you know.
Yeah.
And they're not poor players. I think is what sometimes I get too concerned with. They're not poor players. They just don't suit the style of or Jorginho in particular. Kovacic is far more versatile, but Jorginho in particular, as a supposed six, doesn't suit the style of the league. And an analyst, a pretty popular analyst by the name of Sebastian Chapuis, said this a while ago when Jorginho first signed. In Serie A, they match. They don't match man to man. So in the Premier League, they'll match you man to man. So if we saw yesterday, McTominay had the job of marking Mason Mount man to man. You'd see him following, and Mason Mount had the job of marking, I think it was one of their center backs, man to man. Whereas in Serie A, if I'm not mistaken, they don't mark man to man. Right? So so when Jorginho's asked to do something that he's not effective, that he's not, I guess, comfortable or effective at doing, he doesn't look as good. And Jorginho's not a double six player. So if we are going to stick with the double six, Jorginho's not that guy. Because we all heard under Sarri, he's meant for a midfield three. Right? And that was very, very adamantly said by Sarri. And so we have one of, if not the best double six players in world football, in N'Golo Kante. So I presume Tuchel's using this system to get the best out of Kante. Because if he could have, just as he did at PSG, he had a build-up of a 3-1. So he'd have his either right fullback or left fullback tuck in, and then he'd have a single DM. That doesn't suit Kante, and that doesn't suit the league. Because unless that one is Makelele, then they're going to get shredded, like outright.
Yeah.
And so even the great Pep Guardiola had his fullback tuck in next to his DM to stop transitions. And so we see time and time again that, again, there's a schism between what we have and what they're good at and what we have and what they're good at. There's two very separate sides, right? We don't have the players to exclusively play a possession style system, right? Because we didn't sign those type of players. What we did sign was towards a more Klopp model.
Yeah,
right.
True.
We have the inside forward in Werner and Pulisic.
Pressing kind of players that press well.
Exactly. The counter, the very, the heavy reliance on counter pressing. And then you have effectively a cheat code in Kante, who'll win the ball for you up the pitch consistently. Now, I'll put forward a hypothetical, and what I imagine Tuchel to do next season is Kante and Werner will play on the same side, and Kante's job will be to win the ball high up and to release Werner early, just like Salah and Mane are repeatedly released early. That's how they scored 30 goals a season. They didn't score 30 goals a season through deep blocks because that's not their game. You know, we see Trent pump balls in over, Hendo pump balls in over early because that's they're best for non-settled blocks, and Werner is that type of player. Right? So we have a different, we don't have a system or the type of forwards that complement Jovicic. And that's why we see such a stale front line, in my opinion.
It's very, very well. So I've maintained my whole argument that the whole Kovacic and Jorginho, I agree, because I did a stream a couple of days ago with RJ and Taryn, and I said that I think for the time being, he sees that the chemistry between Jorginho and Kovacic is working, and it's worked previously, obviously. We're holding the ball better. I don't think he can win us the league. There's no way I think Thomas Tuchel, if he is there for next season, that these two double sixes of Kovacic and Jorginho stays, because ultimately I too believe, and as you said, Mediano, that he loves Kante, and he sees that Kante needs as you've mentioned previously, complement him with a proper DM that's going to be disciplined and stay back and destroy. And then we're going to see the fruits of it. And that's why I feel like he's probably hesitating to use Kante that much, because right now he doesn't have that partner for Kante. Do you agree with that as well, Mediano? Right now, Kante, if he was to play a double six, there's no proper partner to complement him.
Yeah. So what we saw in our last very effective pivot was either Cesc and Kante or Kante and Matic. And while they both bring different things, what they both did for Kante was hold position, number one. And number two, when Cesc played, David Luiz would push up to help him.
Yeah.
So we'd see like Kante ball win across the pitch, but David Luiz would also have that duty of playing a sweeper and coming out to help Cesc. Now, when Matic played in a lot of the games, we saw Matic hold position and be very. This is a key aspect of a Premier League midfielder. You have to be vertically competent. So when I say vertical, I mean side to side. Now, Matic was arguably, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best vertical movers ever, because he moved vertically across the pitch so swiftly, you know, and he'd clean up and mop up any counter, loose ball, second ball, whatever. You know what I mean?
By the way, just a quote, prime Matic, people might start thinking, oh, Matic of this, you know, of now probably doesn't do that, but prime Matic, 100% agree.
Yeah. I'm referring to Matic 2014, circa 2016, 2014.
Yes.
And so we missed that profile. And I don't think any Chelsea fan can disagree that our midfield with a Matic type player looks more solid. Now, if we want to turn Kante into a holder, he can. And I don't believe anyone that says he can't, because even Tuchel himself said he can. But do we want to limit, like, and this is from the horse's mouth, do we want to cut off his wings? Because,
his wings,
exactly, because that's what Tuchel said. So it's like we can, you know, and it would be beneficial, but then we're losing a ball winner across the pitch. So that's why Conte paired them both. And so he said, your job is to ball win. And when I say a midfield axis, people are forgetting that Kante had 4 goals and 4 assists under Conte in 2016, 2017, and Matic had 7 assists and 1 goal. So they combined for almost 15 goals and assists. That's and they're not goal scorers, and they're not renowned for going forward. And then we had Cesc off the bench. So we had tangible output in that axis. Now, for as good as Jovicic are, they don't have tangible output, you know? So when I hear people say Jovicic, if they contributed to goals and assists like a Matic or Kante did, then by all means, I guess they're competent in winning the league. But they don't lock up defensively like a Kante and Matic, and they don't even score nor assist as efficiently as a Kante or Matic. So by all measurements, objectively, the standards have dropped, you know, and we could go on about ball domination and technical security, but then we see the Atletico game, and what we saw during the Atletico game was Jorginho didn't have the technical security required. You know, they were hounding him off the pitch for the first half, and like Hajir said, his long balls were left to be desired. So it's not that Jorginho's a bad player. And it's far from it, you know, and I do give him full credit for making his name in the game, but he's not the player that will take us forward. And if our goal is to win a Premier League title, then that midfield needs serious work.
I cannot one bit disagree with anything you said, honestly, Mediano. I think everyone in the fan base, obviously this will be, you know, hopefully more people will see it. We've got nearly 30 people at one stage, nearly 40 people watching it. They will now understand exactly what you mean, Mediano, and also what Hajir has been saying as well, that it's not that you guys don't like these sort of players. They just simply won't be, you know, helping us to win the league down the track or in the kind of football that we want to play. Hajir, let's go to you. Let's talk about the wing backs now in the Thomas Tuchel era. I want to talk about both the right wing back and the left wing back. Obviously, in the right side, Hudson-Odoi, that's a massive revelation for me. I never expected. And if anyone ever said to me, when Thomas Tuchel comes in, you're going to see, Hudson-Odoi playing as a right wing back, I'd be like, you're mad, my man. But he's been doing very well. It allows him to be 1v1. He can take on his player. The way we're sort of playing, it's more lopsided on the right side. So we allowing him to sort of have overlapping sort of Azpilicueta at times. So it gives him that, it truly, it lifts his skill set playing in that role. And obviously on the left side, Alonso and Chilwell. Alonso, as Mediano said as well, and I agree, he's someone who's just good enough for the clutch goals. Besides that, he doesn't really provide anything else. I know us in the fan base being gassed as soon as Alonso has been reinstated and the whole left wing back. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be honest, he's very limited. But at the same time, I feel like Chilwell is somewhat limited as well. He doesn't seem to give the same intensity as a left wing back really should, as opposed to when he's more of a left back. But in recent times, his form has been pretty bad. I want you to talk about these two, but I also want you to talk about the whole Reece James, because I feel like this whole situation is hurting Reece James in a sense, because Reece is not getting the opportunity to play as a right back, because now we're playing with three at the back, and now with Azpilicueta playing right centre back. I don't really like Reece James playing as a wing back, and we had a discussion yesterday with Mediano where we disagreed. I want you to tell me, how do you feel about the whole wing back situation, left and right, but also Reece James playing as a right wing back?
To be fair, all of this leads to the same point that Mediano made. Chelsea Football Club at the moment, we're trying to like build this puzzle, all right? But what we're doing, we're getting other pieces of other puzzles and trying to fit them in the one we are trying to build, and it doesn't fit. That's the thing with our players. Reece James, he's a part of the puzzle that doesn't fit this system. It doesn't fit. And then you can say, where does it fit the most? And for me, that's the right centre back position. That is the right centre back position, because when we attack, Hudson-Odoi bombs forward, and you have Reece James, he can follow up, because Aspi gets into great positions to cross the ball, but he doesn't have that cross on him like he used to. And we all know that Reece James does. Reece James do have the ball on him. That can cross the ball. That's another creator. That is another creator. Even though he's playing as centre back, him playing that RCB role, that's another creator. That is another creator.
Yeah.
So it all depends. And with Chilwell, yeah, this is the thing with Ben Chilwell. He's a confident player. If he's confident, he's playing well. And same way, if the team is playing well, he's playing well, and the other way around. But of course, he can have a good game, even if the team is bad, but still. And the thing is with him, he's more of a left back. There is a huge difference between playing a left wing back and a left back. Just look at Marcus Alonso, yeah. Yeah, even though he sent Roberto Carlos, for example, at left wing back, you can see the difference. Ben Chilwell is a lot better at left back. And one thing Ben Chilwell is good at driving with the ball. We haven't seen it at Chelsea. We have not seen it at Chelsea. So, I mean, there is still part of his game that we haven't seen that we will probably see soon. Because I think he's just 23, 24 as well. So he's still fairly young. And about Hudson-Odoi, the guy he has sauce. He has that sauce we like. The guy has. Imagine it, you know the word drip. That's how we were close. Yeah, the guy has drip on the pitch. The way he goes at players, the way he creates, his crossing is unbelievable. It's so underrated. Like his passing and creativity and his crosses in general, even the low or high one, are incredible. He should have an assist yesterday. He's so good at that. He's really good at that.
He should have. Ziyech missed that chance.
To be fair, I'm going to say this again. Even though he has done a great job at right wing back, it's not his position. And it's not right wing either. It's left wing. It's left wing. I've seen the guy play in the academy. I've seen him play. I actually saw the England versus Spain game, like under 17 or something like that, a couple of years ago. And the guy played left wing, and he was literally unbelievable. That is his right position, left wing. So if you think that we have seen the best out of Hudson-Odoi now, you're high. You need to get off. You need to get off that weed, yeah. Because once he plays more further up and doesn't need to have that defensive job he has at the moment. Because, of course, even if he plays the left wing, he needs to track back. But playing right wing back, you need to track back more. You're more of a defender, obviously, than you are when you play left wing. So when he actually plays left wing, and that responsibility he has to defend kind of isn't as much, then you will see a monster, especially under a manager that creates young monsters.
Yeah, no, true, Hajir. So you're under the understanding, Hajir, that this whole three at the back and the wing backs, this is just for this season. This is good.
Yeah. You know why? Yeah, we don't have good enough center backs, and we don't have a DM. And can I just make a point about what Mediano say? I'm telling you, the guy is so smart. That is why I rate him so much. I haven't even think of this, even though it's obvious. We need to buy players that suit each other. And N'Golo Kante isn't Pirlo.
Complement
yeah,
players.
Exactly. So that DM next to him, should that be Ndidi? No. Why? Ndidi is great defensively. Doesn't have the passing. You don't want to complement him. Do you want Zakaria? He's great defensively, strong, fast. No, doesn't have that passing. You need to buy a defender with that passing. And once again, Kimmich is never going to happen. Once again, Declan Rice. He has those abilities that would suit Kante like with perfection. That's all I'm going to say.
I have to agree that Declan Rice's passing has improved this season. It's no coincidence that West Ham are in the top four, and Declan Rice is also playing well. So we need to understand that. 100% agree what you said, Hajir, that the compliment that Mediano. By the way, Mediano, man, you've been getting some massive shout outs in this live chat. Looks like I need to bring you back again. There's been people left, right, and center saying what an awesome takes that you've been giving. And this particular super chat, shout out to King Mbani. Mediano Era needs to be a football analyst for Sky. There you go, Mediano. This $6 really needs to go to you, my man. Shout your coffee or something. But Mediano, we had a bit of a tussle yesterday mid-game when I said I don't really like Reece James as a right wing back because I feel like he doesn't provide exactly what a right wing back. And this is not having a go at Reece James's qualities as a player. I'm more talking about that role, what it deserves in that role. And I don't think Reece James suits that. I feel like as a right wing back, all the things that Callum Hudson-Odoi is sort of doing, to be able to, you're almost like a winger, to be honest, the way we're playing, to have that 1v1 sort of ability to go past players. He obviously has the crossing. I don't even think his pace is as quick as Callum. I think in the right wing back and in the left, don't get me wrong, Alonso is slow. We need someone much quicker than that. But you disagreed. You were saying that, no, look, it all depends on the different player profiles. He's been given a job to do. He wasn't given a job to do what Cho was asked to do. He was more there to help out in defense and give cover for Azpilicueta in the likes of Rashford and whatnot. But personally, I don't know if defensively he was positioned well as well in that particular right wing back spot. I feel like in the right back, he's far better placed, and we saw some of his best football earlier this season in that position. What do you think about this whole wing back situation? And as Hajir said, it's another situation where it feels like it's not getting the best out of some of the players that we have.
I honestly want to actually apologize because you were definitely spot on yesterday. Not in that.
I need to apologize, my man.
Not in that. We're not doubting Reece's quality here, but does that role really suit him? And then I watched the game again, and I watched a couple other games a couple nights ago, and it just feels like it's not really his game, and we see the right center back role, which I've been adamantly vouching for him to play, and I think that would suit him a lot better because then we get his long passing ability and his aerial ability and his shoulder to shoulder. He can step into midfield. He has the calmness to play in midfield. But what I'm not understanding, and maybe this is no slight at Tuchel because he's done a fantastic job with what he's been given, but I hope that we don't see this, and I don't think either that we'll see this three at the back business next season, because it fundamentally gets the best out of the players that aren't going to win us a title. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. I mean, your Alonso's, your Aspies, Jovetic, those guys suit the three at the back, but they don't necessarily suit the rest of the squad. And so I put out a tweet where I broke it down into two different squads. And Reece is in, let's say, side A, whereas Alonso's in side B. And Reece and Cho and Mount and Werner and Havertz, they're all inside A. These guys don't suit this three at the back. But your Jovetic and your Aspies and your Alonso's, they do. And so I hope that Tuchel understands that his mandate will be to challenge for the title. And that if he chooses to employ these players and place all his trust in them, like Sarri and Lampard before him, I'm not sure it ends well. And I do hope that Tuchel has a fantastic time here, because he's shown that he's a fantastic tactician. And it was the first time since 2014, I'd argue, that we had a European level tactician. And I would say Conte's in that bracket, but his Champions League record is dodgy. But that's besides the point. I digress. I don't see it. And I think that Tuchel has a very dynamic fullback pairing in Reece and Chilwell, who were setting the league alight. Let's not forget. They were doing very, very well for Chelsea up until
Mediano. There was a moment where we were saying these two fullbacks are probably the best fullbacks at one stage in the earlier stage of the season.
Exactly, right? So this is maybe, and this is, I suppose, me being optimistic, is that Tuchel himself is getting them used to the role he wants them to play, not necessarily as a right wing back, but he wants them to be comfortable in those phases of play. So what I would really like to see, however, is him show faith in Reece to play that Aspie role, because not that there's anything wrong, and Aspie's been a great servant, and he's done really well in the back three, but he just looks a little bit languid, and he looks a little bit tired and labored in possession sometimes, and he doesn't always, pick the right path. So I think if I was Tuchel, I would want Reece to get used to that role, just like Kyle Walker did. And I think Reece is a far better ball player than Kyle Walker as far as passing goes and technical security. So I think next preseason is going to be very interesting, and I think Christensen's resurrection, if we can call it that, has been really good to see, because in that we have the calmness and the sweeper type player. Whether he can live up to that very high billing that John Terry placed on him is yet to be seen. But as a Cobham grad, I'm always going to back him, and I hope his form continues. And I would like to see the three at the back transition to a four at the back, and play Reece and Chilwell in their natural positions more often, because they are a top-class fullback pairing, but they're not a top-class wing-back pairing.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. And this is exactly what we've been seeing. And this is probably why we keep seeing Alonso getting the shout on the left side and Callum Hudson-Odoi is getting the shout on the right side, because he's probably a little bit more suited in terms of the attacking sense in the right wing back. But, defensively, we were still suspect in the wing back position. I completely understand about the whole Azpilicueta. Reece James would suit that Aspie spot. But Tuchel, I think, in that interview against Rio Ferdinand, specifically said that the first thing he did when he came back was he saw that he needed three at the back with the kind of characteristic of the players that we had, and he wanted to reinstate the captain back in. He wanted to have that captain. I think this will all change. I feel like if everything goes well, that he stays, this will all change next season, and he will start fresh, and there will be a different sort of backdrop, I believe. Just before we wrap things up, I do want to bring this particular comment out from Gaurav. I'll go to Hajir. Hajir, just for the time being, though, we have been talking about Kante, and perhaps he needs a better, complementary player next to him. I've said it many times that Reece James, and Mediano just said that he's decent on the ball. People really underrate Reece James's ball playing ability. I think he's very decent on the ball. He can make those passes and keep the tempo. He can make those crosses from deep as well. What's your thought, Hajir? Perhaps Kante and Reece James as double six partners?
Look, a wise man a couple of weeks ago told me this, and that wise man is Mediano. It is him. We were in a Discord call, me and a few others, and he said actually something. I said, why don't we try Reece James at DM? And he said, do you want an okay DM and Reece James and a new right back, or a future world-class right back and a world-class DM in midfield? And from that day, I've said no, get a DM. That's the thing. Get a DM. Keep playing him at right back. That is always I'm gonna see it now.
Fair point. Look, at the end of the day, he far excels in the right side. But meanwhile, Mediano, I've said this a few times, where if we can't get the best out of Reece James under Thomas Tuchel's back three and the wing back, and he's not really getting his shout in the right centre back position as well because of Azpilicueta, is DM something that you could probably look at just for the time being until we sort of reshape again?
Yeah, if and this is a big if I was Marina and I had a load of cash, Jadon Sancho and Declan Rice would be my 1 and 2 signings this summer. Definitely need a DM, whether it is Declan Rice or Wilfred Ndidi or Aurier Chouameni. It doesn't matter. But we need that profile. And I don't think we're gonna make inroads next season on City if we don't get it. I even went so far as to say I'd really like to see Christensen there. And we saw with Tuchel that he put Marquinhos there because he's not a center back. So it's not as though Christensen doesn't have the ball playing ability or the passing ability or the calmness. In theory, Christensen seems to suit that position very well. Whether that could perfect, well in. Whether that in practice replicates its theoretical, I guess, idealism is yet to be seen. But if we can't get a DM, I would very much like to see Christensen there. And then we have very suitable center backs in Thiago Silva, Rudiger, and Zuma, who are very comfortable in a back two. And so we're effectively now maximizing Christensen's potential because he's going to be doing the same thing, but in midfield, stepping out, playing passes, and so on. But we're also going to see the best out of Kante and the best out of Reece and the best out of Chilwell. So I think it could be a pretty quirky, quick fix.
You know what? I didn't think, a lot of people have been saying about Christensen, and I've been sort of disregarding it. But in this system, the way Tuchel's playing and the way he's been complimenting Christensen, that, just forget about, just stay calm, trust in your abilities, the ball playing abilities that Christensen has. And the whole DM situation will take that load off him as well for constantly being focused about defending and being in the right position. In that double six, he can have that odd sort of time where he doesn't have to be, in the right spot all the time because you have the three at the back. Do you know what I mean? So this is definitely a good shout. But ladies and gentlemen, honestly, what a top conversation we've had. Thank you to Hajir for jumping in midway through. And Mediano, man, I think I'll need to have you more in the streams because the live chat has been absolutely loving you as well. Loving Hajir's energy too and his quirky ways too. But overall, thank you so much, the live chat. This is hopefully everyone gets to see the whole thing down the track. And thank you to the live chat. And just before we go, some final words from Hajir.
No, nothing to say. Glad to be on this time again. Love speaking to you, It's always a pleasure. Mediano, the guy don't miss. He never misses. His football opinions are quality. That is why I keep giving shout-outs on Twitter and such. This is the thing, I'm a person. I don't make friends, and don't like people. Like in general, I'm very critical. But I haven't even met this guy in real life, and I like him. So yeah, follow Mediano on Twitter and subscribe to Miss. Yeah, let's go to 4 or 5K.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Hajir, I will have all your socials in the description soon. So guys, please follow Hajir. He is followed by Tammy Abraham. Enough said. So you need to follow Hajir straight up. Mediano, my man, I must admit, I can't lie. There has been times previously, and obviously we were part of the project with Vince and whatnot, that didn't work out. We went our separate ways. And there's been times where I've been vocal and I haven't probably agreed with you. But one thing I must say, Mediano, my man, you are one respectful person. In social media, whenever we've had personal sort of chats on WhatsApp or whatnot previously, you've always been respectful. Today, we saw the full array of everything that you had to say, your analysis, whether people agree or not, at least they can respect the fact that the way you're thinking and your logic behind it. So I do appreciate that a lot, my man. Thank you heaps. Any final words from you?
None but thank you, Miz. The praise is far too kind, and I guess one final word is it takes away nothing for people to have civil discussions, and disagreements are all part of the learning process. We can all learn something, and so disagreements are never a bad thing, but talking respectfully and fleshing them out respectfully is what we should pride ourselves on. And thank you so much again for having me on, and it's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Brilliant, man. So well said, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I personally find the disagreements a lot better because I get to learn a different perspective as opposed to someone just constantly just agreeing. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please follow Mediano Era. His information's in the description right now. Go and follow him. Honestly, you will not regret it one bit. Guys, until next time, everyone, thank you heaps. See you.